Maya Chen pressed her back against the cool metal wall of the medical bay, listening to the heavy footsteps of the thorax security chief echoing down the corridor. Commander Vexka stood nearly 8 feet tall, his blue-scaled hide gleaming under the ship's artificial lighting. Like most of the crew aboard the Concordia Asterisk, he viewed humans with a mixture of pity and protective instinct. "Little human," his rumbling voice carried through the comm system, "stay in your medical station. We handle the pirates now." Maya sighed and adjusted her medical scanner. At 5 feet 4 inches and barely 120 pounds, she understood why the aliens saw her as fragile. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her brown eyes held a gentleness that made wounded crew members feel safe. The other species on the ship, the towering thorax, the four-armed Zephyrians, the crystalline Vortons, all possessed obvious physical advantages that humans simply lacked. The Asterisk Concordia served as a deep space research vessel, exploring the outer rim territories where 3 different star systems met. Maya had joined the crew 6 months ago as their xenobiological medical officer. Her specialty was treating the various alien species that made up the galactic community. Humans were still relatively new to interstellar society, having only made first contact 25 years earlier. Most aliens found humans fascinating, but ultimately limited. They admired human curiosity and adaptability, but viewed them as physically inferior beings who needed protection. Maya had grown accustomed to being treated like a delicate flower by her well-meaning crewmates. The ship shuddered violently, and emergency lights began flashing red. Maya grabbed her medical kit and moved toward the main corridor. Through the viewport, she could see 3 sleek black vessels approaching rapidly. The pirates of the Broken Chain were notorious throughout this sector for their ruthlessness and advanced weaponry. "All crew to battle stations," Captain Mordun's voice boomed through the ship. The captain was a Zephyrian, his 4 arms allowing him to operate multiple ship systems simultaneously. "Humans to secure locations. This is not a place for your kind." Maya felt a familiar frustration rising in her chest. She had trained at the Terran Medical Academy for 8 years, specializing in emergency trauma and xenobiology. She could perform surgery on 7 different alien species and had memorized the anatomical weak points of over 40 known hostile species. Yet her crewmates saw only her small stature and assumed incompetence. The ship rocked again as the pirates latched onto the hull. Maya could hear the distinctive sound of hull cutters beginning their work. The Broken Chain never bothered with negotiations or demands for surrender. They simply took what they wanted and eliminated anyone who opposed them. Through her medical scanner, Maya watched the life signs of her crewmates moving toward defensive positions. Commander Vexka led a squad of 6 thorax warriors toward the main airlock where the pirates would likely breach. Engineer Kalwen, a massive crystalline Vorton, had positioned himself at the secondary engineering access point with his team. Medical Officer Zixnell, a flowing energy being from the Plasma Collective, had moved to protect the ship's computer core. Each of these beings possessed natural advantages that made them formidable opponents. Thorax had incredibly thick hide that could stop most small arms fire, plus crushing strength that could bend metal. Zephyrians moved with lightning speed and could multitask in ways that confused most enemies. Vortons could reshape their crystalline bodies to become living weapons, while plasma beings could phase through solid matter and disrupt electronic systems. But Maya also knew something her crewmates had never bothered to learn about humans. She knew that being underestimated was often the greatest weapon of all. The hull cutters finished their work with a shower of sparks. Maya watched on her scanner as 8 pirate life forms dropped through the breach point. The Broken Chain employed a mixed crew of different species, all united by their willingness to use violence for profit. She could identify 2 thorax, 3 Zephyrians, 2 creatures she didn't recognize, and 1 being whose life sign readings suggested cybernetic enhancement. The battle began immediately. Maya watched the bright flashes of energy weapons through the corridor windows as her crewmates engaged the intruders. The sound of combat echoed through the ship, the roar of thorax battle cries, the high-pitched whine of Zephyrian speed movement, the crystalline ringing of Vorton shape-shifting. For the first few minutes, it seemed like the crew of the Concordia would repel the boarders. The life signs on Maya's scanner showed the pirates being pushed back toward their entry point. Commander Vexka's tactical experience was evident as he coordinated his forces effectively. Then everything changed. A new signal appeared on Maya's scanner, a massive life form dropping through the hull breach. The readings were unlike anything in her database, showing size and energy output that dwarfed even the largest thorax. This had to be the pirate captain, and whatever species he represented, he was built for war. The tide of battle shifted instantly. Maya watched in horror as friendly life signs began winking out one by one. The massive new arrival was cutting through her crewmates with terrifying efficiency. Commander Vexka's signal showed critical damage, then went dark entirely. Engineer Colwen's readings fluctuated wildly before stabilizing at minimal life support levels. Within 10 minutes of the captain's arrival, the battle was over. The remaining crew members showed as captured rather than killed, their life signs clustered together in the ship's main cargo bay. Maya realized with growing dread that she was the only crew member left free on the ship. Her comm system crackled to life with an unfamiliar voice speaking heavily accented standard Galactic. "Little ship crew, you fight well but not well enough. We take what we want now. Any crew still hiding, you come out or we start killing prisoners." Maya looked down at her medical kit and felt something shift inside her chest. Her crewmates had spent months treating her like a fragile child who needed constant protection. They had never asked about her background before joining the Concordia Asterisk, never wondered why a human would specialize in xenobiology and emergency trauma medicine, never questioned why she knew so much about alien anatomy and physiology. They were about to learn that humans hadn't survived as a species by being weak. They had survived by being adaptable, resourceful, and absolutely ruthless when the situation demanded it. Maya began pulling specific items from her medical kit, her movements becoming more precise and deliberate. The pirates had made a critical error. They had dismissed the small human as irrelevant, just as her own crewmates had always done. But Maya Chen hadn't spent the last 6 months just treating patients and filing medical reports. She had been studying every species on the ship, learning their strengths, their weaknesses, and most importantly, exactly how to disable them quickly and efficiently. She sealed her medical bay and began moving through the ship's maintenance shafts, heading toward the cargo bay where her friends were being held. The pirates were about to discover why humans had earned their place among the stars, and why underestimating them was always a fatal mistake. Maya's brown eyes had lost their gentle warmth, replaced by the cold calculation of someone who understood exactly what needed to be done. The weak human girl was about to become the most dangerous thing on the ship. Maya crawled through the maintenance shaft with the practiced silence of someone who had done this before. The narrow passages that connected different sections of the Asterisk Concordia were designed for emergency repairs, not human movement, but her small size proved advantageous for once. She could hear voices and movement from the cargo bay below as the pirates searched the ship for anything valuable. Through a ventilation grate, she observed the situation. Her crewmates sat bound in the center of the cargo bay, guarded by 6 of the 8 pirates who had boarded. Commander Vexka was unconscious, his blue scales darkened with blood from a head wound. Engineer Colwen's crystalline form had several cracks running through it, indicating severe damage to his internal matrix. The others showed various injuries but appeared stable. The pirate captain dominated the space around him. Maya finally got a clear look at the creature and felt her blood run cold. He was a Devastator, a species she had only read about in classified military reports. They stood nearly 10 feet tall, with thick black hide covered in natural armor plating. Their forearms each ended in claws capable of rending metal, and their heads featured rows of razor-sharp teeth designed for tearing apart prey. Devastators were supposedly extinct, wiped out during the Galactic Purge Wars 50 years ago due to their uncontrollable aggression and inability to coexist with other species. This one wore crude armor and carried multiple weapons, but his most terrifying feature was his intelligence. Unlike the mindless berserkers described in the historical records, this Devastator spoke with calculated precision as he directed his crew. "Search every compartment," the captain growled. "This ship carries medical research data worth millions of credits on the black market. Find the main computer core and extract everything." 2 of the pirates had left to search other sections of the ship. Maya counted 4 remaining guards plus the captain. The odds seemed impossible, but she had faced worse during her time in the Terran Special Forces before becoming a doctor. Most people didn't realize that many human medical officers had military backgrounds. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and doctors often found themselves in combat zones. Maya opened her medical kit and began assembling what she needed. A hypospray loaded with a cocktail of alien-specific pharmaceuticals, surgical tools that could serve multiple purposes, and several items that weren't standard medical equipment but had proven useful in her previous career. She started with the farthest guard, a Zephyrian pirate who had positioned himself near the ship's environmental controls. Maya dropped silently from the ceiling vent behind him, moving with the fluid grace that came from years of combat training. The Zephyrian's 4 arms and superior speed meant nothing when he never saw her coming. Maya pressed the hypospray against the base of his neck and triggered the injection. The drug cocktail she had prepared was specifically designed for Zephyrian physiology, a combination of neural inhibitors and muscle relaxants that would cause immediate paralysis without permanent damage. The guard collapsed without making a sound. 1 down, 4 to go. The next target was a thorax positioned near the cargo bay entrance. Maya knew that their thick hide made them nearly immune to most weapons, but her medical training had taught her about the soft tissue areas that every species possessed. She approached from his blind spot, moving along the wall where the shadows were deepest. The thorax's natural armor meant that a direct injection would be impossible, but Maya had studied their anatomy extensively. There was a small gap where the skull met the spinal column, protected by only a thin membrane. She used a surgical scalpel to make a precise incision, then administered a targeted neural block that shut down the creature's motor functions instantly. 2 down. The remaining 2 guards were positioned closer to the prisoners, making stealth more difficult. But Maya had noticed something during her observation. One of the pirates was a species she didn't immediately recognize, a reptilian humanoid with mottled green skin and multiple eyes arranged around his skull. His behavior patterns suggested enhanced senses that would make a direct approach impossible. Maya returned to the ventilation system and moved to a position directly above the unknown alien. She had learned during her military service that sometimes the best approach was the most direct one. She dropped through the grate, landing on the pirate's shoulders and wrapping her arm around his throat in a blood choke. The alien thrashed wildly, his multiple eyes rolling in panic as he tried to dislodge her. But Maya had positioned herself perfectly, using her knowledge of humanoid anatomy to cut off blood flow to the brain. Within seconds, the pirate lost consciousness and crumpled to the floor. The final guard, another Zephyrian, spun toward the commotion with all 4 arms reaching for his weapons. Maya was already moving, rolling behind a cargo container as energy blasts scorched the air where she had been standing. The Zephyrian's superior speed meant he could track her movements, but Maya had one advantage he didn't expect. She threw her medical scanner at his feet, causing him to look down for just an instant. That moment of distraction was all Maya needed to close the distance between them. She drove her surgical laser directly into the nerve cluster at the base of his skull, sending a precisely calibrated pulse that overloaded his nervous system without causing permanent damage. 4 down, only the captain remained. Maya stepped into the open area where the Devastator could see her. Her crewmates stared in shock at the small human who had single-handedly neutralized 4 armed pirates in less than 3 minutes. The gentle medical officer they knew had been replaced by someone they didn't recognize, someone whose movements spoke of deadly competence and absolute confidence. The Devastator captain studied her with calculating intelligence. So the little human has some fight in her after all. I wondered why your crew was so protective of such a weak creature. Perhaps they knew you had claws hidden beneath that soft exterior. Maya said nothing, simply began walking toward him with steady, measured steps. The captain's 4 arms spread wide, each hand gripping a different weapon. His massive size and natural armor made him a formidable opponent, but Maya had spent years studying how to kill things much larger and stronger than herself. I have fought humans before, little one, the Devastator continued. During the war, before my people were hunted to extinction. You are clever, I will grant that, but cleverness only goes so far against raw power. The captain lunged forward with the speed that had made Devastators such feared opponents during the Purge Wars. His lower arms swung massive energy clubs, while his upper arms fired plasma weapons that could have melted through the ship's hull. Maya dove and rolled, using her small size to stay beneath his reach while moving constantly to avoid his attacks. The cargo bay erupted in destruction as the captain's weapons tore apart containers and equipment in his attempt to hit the elusive human. Maya stayed mobile, waiting for her opportunity. She had learned during her military career that every enemy, no matter how powerful, had weaknesses that could be exploited. As the Devastator spun to track her movement, Maya saw what she had been waiting for. A gap in his armor plating where the various pieces didn't quite meet, located just below his primary heart. It would require perfect timing and absolute precision to exploit, but it was possible. Maya feinted left, drawing the captain's attack, then spun right and launched herself directly at his chest. The surgical laser in her hand fired a concentrated beam that slipped through the armor gap and struck the nerve cluster that controlled his cardiovascular system. The Devastator's eyes widened in shock as his body betrayed him, his mighty form crashing to the floor as his heart stopped beating. Maya stood over the fallen captain, checking his pulse to confirm he was unconscious but alive. The cargo bay had fallen silent except for the heavy breathing of her bound crewmates. She moved quickly to free them, using her medical tools to cut through their restraints. Commander Vexka was the first to speak, his voice filled with confusion and something that might have been fear. "Maya, what? How did you?" Maya helped him to his feet, her gentle bedside manner returning as she checked his injuries. "We need to get everyone to the medical bay. You have a concussion, and Colwen needs immediate treatment for his matrix damage." But the questions in her crewmates' eyes made it clear that everything had changed. The weak human girl they thought they knew was gone, replaced by someone who had just demonstrated capabilities that redefined their understanding of what humans could do. Maya knew that explanations would have to come, but first she had to make sure her friends survived. As she helped her injured crewmates toward the medical bay, Maya realized that her secret was finally out. The galaxy was about to learn that humans hadn't earned their place among the stars through weakness, but through a strength that came from places their alien allies had never imagined. 2 hours later, Maya finished treating the last of her crewmates' injuries in the medical bay. Engineer Colwen's crystalline matrix had been carefully repaired, his internal structure glowing with renewed stability. Commander Vexka's concussion was healing under the influence of accelerated cellular repair therapy designed for thorax physiology. The others had received treatment for various cuts, burns, and bruises sustained during the brief but violent battle. The 5 unconscious pirates had been secured in the ship's detention cells, their weapons confiscated, and injuries treated according to standard medical protocols. Even the Devastator captain, whom Maya had expected to be the most difficult patient, had responded well to the emergency cardiac restart procedure. She had kept her oath as a doctor, ensuring that even their enemies received proper medical care. But the atmosphere in the medical bay was thick with unspoken questions. Maya could feel her crewmates watching her with a mixture of awe, confusion, and something that looked almost like fear. The gentle human who had spent months bandaging their minor injuries and listening to their personal problems had been replaced by someone they didn't recognize. Captain Mordun was the first to break the silence. His 4 Zephyrian arms moved in agitated patterns as he spoke. "Maya, I think we deserve an explanation. What we witnessed, that was not the behavior of a medical officer. You moved like a trained warrior, knew exactly how to disable each pirate using methods that required intimate knowledge of their anatomical weak points." Maya cleaned her surgical instruments with precise movements, buying time to organize her thoughts. She had known this conversation would come eventually, but she had hoped to avoid it for a while longer. The truth would change everything about her relationships with these beings who had become her friends. "My medical training is legitimate," she said finally. "I graduated from the Terran Medical Academy with specializations in xenobiology and emergency trauma. Everything I've done aboard this ship as your medical officer has been within the scope of my professional qualifications." But Engineer Colwen's crystalline form chimed with harmonics that indicated deep concern. "There is clearly more to your background than healing the sick." Maya set down her instruments and turned to face her crewmates. "Before attending medical school, I served 8 years in the Terran Special Forces. I was part of a unit called the Xenological Combat Assessment Division. Our job was to study alien species and develop tactical protocols for dealing with hostile encounters." The medical bay fell silent. Captain Mordun's 4 arms stopped their agitated movement entirely. Commander Vexka's blue scales darkened to indicate shock. The other crew members exchanged glances that spoke of their growing understanding. "During my military service," Maya continued, "I studied the combat capabilities, physiological weaknesses, and tactical patterns of over 60 different alien species. I learned how to kill them, how to disable them, and how to treat their injuries. When I left the military to become a doctor, I thought I was putting that knowledge behind me. Medical Officer Zixnell, whose energy form had been quietly observing from the corner, finally spoke. But you never forgot what you learned. No, Maya admitted. I never forgot. And when I saw my friends being captured by pirates, when I watched Commander Vexka fall and thought he might be dead, I remembered why I learned those skills in the first place. She moved to the medical bay's main display and called up a file from her personal records. The screen showed images of various alien species with detailed anatomical charts highlighting vulnerable areas. Combat assessment data scrolled alongside medical treatment protocols. This is what humans do, Maya explained. We study, we adapt, and we prepare for every possibility. My medical knowledge and my combat training aren't separate skills, they're two sides of the same coin. Understanding how to heal someone requires knowing exactly how they can be hurt. Commander Vexka stood slowly, his massive frame still showing the effects of his injuries. You could have told us, we would have understood. Maya shook her head. Would you have? For 6 months, all of you have treated me like a fragile child who needs constant protection. You never asked about my background because you assumed that humans are weak and need to be sheltered from danger. Even now, you're afraid of what you've learned about me. The truth of her words hung heavy in the air. Each of her crewmates had, at various times, dismissed her capabilities based solely on her species and physical appearance. They had never considered that the small, gentle human might possess skills that rivaled or exceeded their own. The Terran Special Forces doesn't recruit weak individuals, Maya continued. We have to be better than our alien allies in ways that matter smarter, more adaptable, more determined. Physical strength is just one factor in combat effectiveness, and it's rarely the most important one. Captain Mordun's voice carried a note of uncertainty that Maya had never heard before. How many humans serve in combat roles throughout the galaxy? More than you realize, Maya replied. We don't advertise our military capabilities because we've learned that being underestimated is often more valuable than being feared. But every human ship carries at least one crew member with combat training, and every human colony has defensive specialists who could hold their own against professional soldiers. Engineer Colwen's crystalline form shifted through several color patterns indicating deep thought. This changes everything we believed about your species. If humans possess such capabilities, why maintain the pretense of weakness? Maya pulled up another file on the display, this one showing historical data from human military conflicts. Because we've learned that being seen as harmless allows us to operate more freely. Other species offer us protection, share information more readily, and never see us coming when they prove to be threats. It's a strategic advantage that has served us well. She gestured toward the detention cells where the pirates were being held. That Devastator captain thought he knew how to fight humans based on encounters during the Purge Wars 50 years ago. But the humans he fought then were first-generation space travelers with limited knowledge of alien physiology. I represent 50 years of advancement in xenological combat assessment. Commander Vexka moved closer to the display, studying the tactical data with new understanding. The precision with which you disabled each pirate, that wasn't improvisation. You had a specific plan for dealing with every species represented among the boarding party. I've had detailed files on optimal takedown procedures for Thorax, Zephyrians, and 17 other species since before I joined this crew, Maya confirmed. I study every new species we encounter and develop appropriate protocols. It's what I was trained to do. The implications of Maya's revelation began to sink in for her crewmates. Medical Officer Zixnell's energy form fluctuated with what appeared to be amusement. You've been conducting tactical assessments of our entire crew while treating our medical needs. Maya's expression showed a hint of embarrassment. It's an automatic process at this point. I can't look at any sentient being without analyzing their physiological structure and identifying potential vulnerabilities. It's not something I do intentionally anymore, it just happens. The medical bay's comm system activated with an incoming transmission from the Galactic patrol vessel that had responded to their distress signal. Captain Mordun acknowledged the call, informing them that the pirates had been captured and were ready for transfer to proper authorities. As her crewmates prepared to meet with the patrol officers, Maya realized that her secret was about to spread far beyond the Concordia asterisk. The story of a human medical officer single-handedly defeating a crew of broken-chain pirates would become part of galactic record. Other species would begin to question their assumptions about human capabilities. But looking at her friends, Maya saw something else in their expressions. The fear and confusion were being replaced by a new kind of respect. They were beginning to understand that the gentle human who had cared for their injuries was the same person who had risked everything to save them from the pirates. Commander Vexka approached her slowly, his blue scales showing patterns of deep respect. Maya, I owe you an apology. We all do. We saw only what we expected to see, and we nearly paid for that blindness with our lives. Maya smiled, and for the first time since the attack, her expression carried the warmth her crewmates remembered. You don't owe me anything. You're my friends, and protecting the people I care about is something I'll always do, regardless of whether they think I'm capable of it. But even as she spoke the words, Maya knew that everything had changed. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had realized, and that underestimating them was a mistake that could prove fatal. The Galactic Patrol Vessel Justice's Edge docked with the Concordia 3 hours after Maya's revelation. Captain Thexmore, a veteran Vorton officer whose crystalline body bore the scars of countless battles, boarded with his investigation team to process the captured pirates and gather evidence of their crimes. Maya stood in the ship's main corridor, watching as the patrol officers efficiently secured the prisoners and cataloged the damage from the attack. She felt the weight of curious stares from the new arrivals, who had clearly been briefed on the unusual circumstances of the pirates' capture. Captain Thexmore approached her with the measured stride of someone who had seen enough combat to recognize a fellow warrior. His crystalline form shifted through colors that indicated both respect and careful assessment. Medical Officer Chen, I've read the preliminary reports from your captain. I must say, your actions during this incident have raised some interesting questions. Maya met his gaze steadily. I did what needed to be done to protect my crewmates, nothing more, nothing less. Indeed, the Vorton captain's form chimed with harmonics that suggested deeper meaning behind his words. However, your methods demonstrate a level of tactical sophistication that doesn't typically come from medical training alone. I've been in contact with Terran Command regarding your background. Maya felt a chill run through her. She had hoped to keep her military service relatively quiet, but she should have known that capturing a crew of broken-chain pirates would attract high-level attention. The organization had been responsible for countless attacks throughout the Outer Rim territories. Terran Command has been very helpful in clarifying certain details about human defensive capabilities, Captain Thexmore continued. It seems that your species has been somewhat modest about your true military potential. Commander Vexka, who had been listening from nearby, stepped forward. Captain, what exactly has Terran Command told you? The Vorton officer's crystalline form shifted to display what appeared to be an official document in the air above his hand. According to their records, Medical Officer Chen served with distinction in the Terran Special Forces, achieving the rank of Senior Combat Specialist before transitioning to medical training. Her unit, the Xenological Combat Assessment Division, was responsible for developing tactical protocols that have been adopted by human defense forces throughout the galaxy. Maya watched her crewmates' faces as the full scope of her background became clear. The gentle medical officer they knew had been one of humanity's elite military specialists before she ever set foot in medical school. But that's not the most interesting part, Captain Thexmore continued. Terran Command has informed me that approximately 30% of human civilians serving in non-military roles throughout the galaxy have some form of combat training. They call it universal defense preparedness and consider it essential for species survival in hostile environments. Engineer Colwen's crystalline form chimed with shock. 30%? That would mean millions of humans with combat capabilities are serving in supposedly civilian positions throughout galactic society. Correct, the patrol captain confirmed. And according to their assessments, the average human with basic defensive training could successfully engage and defeat most individual alien combatants through tactical superiority and anatomical knowledge. The implications hung heavy in the corridor air. Maya realized that her actions aboard the Concordia had accidentally triggered a much larger revelation about human capabilities. Other species were about to discover that the seemingly weak humans they had been protecting were actually among the most capable warriors in the galaxy. Captain Mordun's four arms moved in patterns that indicated deep concern. Captain Thexmore, are you suggesting that humans have been deliberately concealing their military potential from their galactic allies? The Vorton officer's form shifted to display another document. Not concealing exactly, but they have allowed other species to maintain certain assumptions that work to everyone's advantage. Humans received protection and support during their integration into galactic society, while other species felt good about helping a weaker ally. Meanwhile, humans have been quietly establishing themselves as the galaxy's most effective defensive specialists. Maya decided it was time to speak for herself. We never lied about our capabilities, but we learned early that being underestimated provides significant strategic advantages. Other species share information more freely, offer assistance more readily, and never see us as potential threats. Until moments like this, Commander Vexka said quietly, when the truth becomes impossible to hide. Captain Thexmore's crystalline form brightened with what might have been amusement. The truth has a way of revealing itself eventually. Your friend's actions here will be reported throughout the Galactic Patrol Network. Stories have a way of spreading, especially when they involve humans demonstrating unexpected capabilities. Maya knew he was right. Within weeks, every patrol officer, merchant captain, and military commander in the sector would know about the human medical officer who had single-handedly defeated a crew of broken-chain pirates. The story would grow with each telling, and humans throughout the galaxy would find themselves viewed very differently. There's something else you should know, Captain Thexmore added. The Devastator captain you captured is particularly significant. According to our intelligence, he was responsible for at least 40 successful pirate operations throughout the Outer Rim. Several galactic governments have been hunting him for years without success. He gestured toward the detention cells where the pirates were being held. The tactical assessment he provided during his interrogation is quite illuminating. He states that you moved unlike any human he had ever encountered, demonstrating capabilities that exceeded his expectations based on historical data from the Purge Wars. Maya felt a surge of satisfaction at the admission. The humans he fought 50 years ago were explorers and colonists with minimal combat training. I represent current military doctrine and tactical evolution. Indeed, and that raises important questions about how the galactic community should reassess human defensive capabilities going forward. Captain Thexmore's form shifted to a more formal configuration. I've been authorized to offer you a commendation for your actions during this incident. The Galactic Defense Council wishes to recognize your service in protecting innocent lives. Maya shook her head politely. I appreciate the gesture, but I was just doing my job. Protecting my crewmates doesn't require special recognition. Perhaps not, the Vorton captain agreed. But your actions have demonstrated something important about human nature that the galaxy needed to understand. You didn't hesitate to risk your life for friends who had consistently underestimated your abilities. That speaks to a kind of loyalty and courage that transcends species boundaries. As the patrol team finished their work and prepared to depart with the captured pirates, Maya found herself surrounded by her crewmates. The dynamic between them had shifted fundamentally, but she could see in their expressions that the change wasn't entirely negative. Commander Vexka spoke for the group. Maya, I know I speak for all of us when I say that we're grateful for what you did. But I also want you to know that we're sorry for how we treated you before this happened. We never took the time to truly understand who you are or what you're capable of. Maya smiled, feeling some of the tension leave her shoulders. You treated me exactly the way I wanted to be treated, as a medical officer focused on keeping everyone healthy. The fact that I have other skills doesn't change my commitment to that role. Medical Officer Zixnell's energy form flickered with patterns that suggested deep thought. But it does change how we understand your species. If there are millions of humans throughout the galaxy with similar capabilities, then everything we thought we knew about interspecies relationships needs to be reconsidered. As the patrol vessel undocked and the Concordia prepared to resume its mission, Maya realized that her secret was now part of galactic record. The story would spread through official channels and informal networks alike. Humans would find themselves viewed with new respect, but also with new wariness. The galaxy was about to learn that the species they had been protecting was actually protecting them in return. and Maya knew that this revelation would fundamentally change humanity's place among the stars. 6 months after the incident aboard the Concordia Asterisk, Maya stood in the observation deck of the orbital station above New Geneva, watching the stream of ships arriving for the Galactic Defense Council's annual summit. The events that had begun with a pirate attack had grown into something far larger than anyone could have predicted. The story of the human medical officer who had defeated the Broken Chain pirates had spread throughout the galaxy exactly as Captain Thexmore had predicted. But the tale had evolved with each telling, becoming something of a legend among spacefaring crews. Maya had heard versions where she had fought off 50 pirates single-handedly, others where she had killed the Devastator captain with her bare hands, and one particularly creative account where she had turned the pirates' own weapons against them using only medical equipment. The truth, as always, was both simpler and more complex than the stories suggested. "Dr. Chen, the council is ready for your presentation." The voice belonged to Admiral Sarah Martinez, the highest-ranking human in the Galactic Defense Forces, and one of the few people who knew the full scope of what Maya's revelation had set in motion. Maya turned from the viewport, straightening her formal medical uniform. The insignia on her collar now included recognition of her military service alongside her medical credentials, a change that had been mandated after the incident became part of official records. "Are they ready for the truth, Admiral?" Maya asked as they walked toward the council chambers. Admiral Martinez smiled grimly. "The truth has been coming out whether they're ready or not. Your actions opened a door that we can't close again." They passed through corridors filled with representatives from dozens of species, all gathered to discuss new protocols for interspecies cooperation and defense. The conversations Maya overheard revealed how much had changed in the galaxy's understanding of human capabilities. A group of Thorak military commanders were discussing requests from their government for human tactical advisors. Two Zephyrian diplomats debated whether their species' traditional protection agreements with human colonies needed to be renegotiated as mutual defense pacts. A Vorton scientist was explaining to colleagues how human anatomical knowledge was revolutionizing medical treatment throughout the galaxy. The council chambers fell silent as Maya entered. Representatives from 43 different species filled the amphitheater-style seating, their attention focused on the small human who had accidentally redefined interspecies relationships. Maya recognized many faces from news broadcasts and diplomatic reports, beings whose decisions shaped policy for billions of sentient creatures. Council Prime Minister Velkan, an ancient wisdom keeper whose species had served as galactic mediators for over 1,000 years, gestured for Maya to approach the central speaking platform. His telepathic abilities made him one of the few beings in the galaxy capable of detecting deception, which was why his species had been chosen to lead the council. "Dr. Chen," his mental voice carried to every being in the chamber, "you stand before this assembly as a representative of humanity's true capabilities. The events aboard the research vessel Concordia have forced our entire galactic community to reassess our understanding of your species' role in interstellar society." Maya stepped to the speaking platform, looking out at the assembled representatives. "Honored council members, I want to be clear about something from the beginning. I did not act as a representative of humanity that day. I acted as someone whose friends were in danger. What I did was personal, not political." Prime Minister Velkan's ancient features showed what might have been amusement. "Nevertheless, your actions have had profound political consequences. Please share with the Council what you have learned about the broader implications of that day." Maya activated the holographic display system, showing statistical data that had been compiled over the past 6 months. Since the incident became public knowledge, there have been significant changes in how humans interact with other species throughout the galaxy. Some of those changes have been positive, others less so. The first set of data showed recruitment statistics for various galactic organizations. Applications from humans to join military and security forces have increased by 300%. Many positions that were previously reserved for species considered more physically capable are now being filled by human candidates. A Thorak council member interrupted with a rumbling voice. "Our own military assessments confirm that human tactical thinking provides significant advantages in complex combat scenarios. Their ability to analyze and exploit enemy weaknesses has proven superior to traditional strength-based approaches. Maya nodded and changed the display to show interspecies cooperation statistics. However, we've also seen some negative consequences. Trust relationships that took decades to build have been damaged by the perception that humans were deliberately hiding their capabilities. Some species now view us with suspicion rather than friendship. A Zephyrian representative spoke up with the characteristic speed of her species. The revelation that humans possess extensive knowledge of our physiological vulnerabilities has created security concerns throughout the diplomatic community. How can we maintain open relationships when one species has studied how to disable all the others? The question hung heavy in the chamber air. Maya had expected it and prepared carefully for her response. The same way we maintained those relationships before you knew we had that knowledge. Humans have been part of galactic society for 25 years without using our capabilities to harm our allies. Our knowledge has been used exclusively to protect, not to attack. She gestured to the data display, showing medical advancement statistics. Human doctors throughout the galaxy have used their anatomical knowledge to save millions of alien lives. Our defensive specialists have protected colonies and trade routes from hostile forces. Our tactical advisors have helped other species develop more effective security protocols. Prime Minister Velkan's mental voice carried thoughtful consideration. You argue that the revelation of human capabilities changes perception but not reality, that your species has always possessed these abilities and used them responsibly. Exactly, Maya confirmed. The humans serving throughout galactic society haven't changed. We're the same people we were before the incident on the Concordia asterisk. The only difference is that now everyone knows what we're capable of when the people we care about are threatened. She changed the display to show a new set of statistics that brought murmurs of surprise from the assembled representatives. But there's something else the Council should know. Our intelligence services have identified over 2,000 instances in the past 5 years where humans prevented attacks on mixed-species installations, ships, and colonies. Most of these interventions went unrecognized because they were handled quietly and efficiently. Admiral Martinez stepped forward to address the Council. Dr. Chen's actions aboard the Asterisk Concordia were remarkable, but they weren't unique. Humans throughout the galaxy have been serving as an unacknowledged defensive shield for our allied species. The difference now is that these actions will no longer go unnoticed. A crystalline Vorton Council member chimed with harmonics indicating deep thought. Are you suggesting that humanity has been functioning as a secret guardian species? Maya shook her head. Not secret, just unrecognized. We've never hidden our defensive capabilities from those who needed to know about them. Military commanders, security chiefs, and intelligence services have always understood human potential. It was only in civilian contexts that we allowed certain assumptions to persist. She returned to the speaking platform, her voice carrying the conviction that came from months of reflection on these events. The question facing this council isn't whether humans can be trusted with dangerous knowledge and capabilities. We've already proven that we can. The question is whether the galactic community is ready to acknowledge what our relationships have really been based on all along. Prime Minister Velkan's telepathic presence touched each mind in the chamber, gathering the collective thoughts and feelings of the assembled representatives. After several minutes of silent deliberation, he spoke aloud so that his words would be part of the official record. This council recognizes that humanity has served the galactic community with distinction in both acknowledged and unacknowledged capacities. The revelation of human defensive capabilities does not diminish their contributions to interspecies cooperation, but rather illuminates the full scope of those contributions. He gestured toward Maya with formal respect. Dr. Chen, your actions aboard the Asterisk Concordia saved not only your crewmates, but also provided this council with an opportunity to address misconceptions that had persisted for too long. Humanity will no longer be viewed as a species requiring protection, but as equal partners in the defense of galactic civilization. As the council session concluded, and representatives began filing out to continue their discussions in smaller groups, Maya found herself approached by her former crewmates from the Concordia Asterisk. Commander Vexka, Engineer Colwen, Captain Mordun, and the others had all traveled to New Geneva to witness this moment. So what happens now? Commander Vexka asked, his blue scales showing patterns of genuine curiosity. Does this change what you want to do with your life? Maya smiled, feeling the same warmth she had always felt when surrounded by her friends. I'm still a doctor first and foremost, but I think I'm ready to stop pretending that being a doctor and being a warrior are mutually exclusive. She looked out through the chamber's massive viewport at the stream of ships representing dozens of different species, all working together despite their differences. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and the people I care about still need protection. Now they know they can count on me to provide it. As the group walked together toward the station's civilian quarters, Maya realized that the most important thing hadn't changed at all. These beings were still her friends, still people worth protecting, still the reason she would put herself in danger without hesitation. The only difference was that now they understood what that protection truly meant. The weak human girl was gone, replaced by someone the galaxy was finally ready to see: a protector, a healer, and a reminder that strength comes in many forms. The universe had learned that underestimating humans was always a mistake, but more importantly, it had learned that being underestimated had never made humans any less dangerous. In the end, that was the most human trait of all.